Right, how's it going, guys? Oddly Unorthodox back again. I did say I was going to make another video sort of explaining my opinion on the actual game. The core gameplay wise, the other video I made obviously was more about the classes, and I will link that in the bottom below so you can see what sort of tier I find the classes on, difficulty, skill, etc. So beginning, just in case you haven't watched that video, this game follows the normal sort of medieval classes that you would expect out of a medieval fantasy game. Wizards, rogues, rangers, fighters, barbarians, clerics, etc. They follow that same sort of system. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely worth a go. So, loading into this game, for my very first game, it was all quite confusing. There was loads of different merchants, loads of different skills, perks I didn't have access to. I didn't even understand what the game was about when I first loaded in. But boy, did I pick it up quickly. So, for those that don't know, this game bases itself on a battleground themed game. So, you load into your arena, be one of the classes that you've chosen, and then, very basically, you go around trying to find better gear. That's what you're seeing me doing at the moment than what you've currently got. Equipping gear, trying to find better weaponry, etc. So that's what you start to find at the beginning. And then you suddenly realise that you're finding treasures. Treasures drop from enemies. They drop from destroyable crates. They're on bookshelves. They're everywhere. So you're finding them along the way that takes up your inventory slot. Now, while also doing this, there is mobs walking around. There's some mobs which I've put at the real lower end of the scale to deal with. This sort of you can kite away from them. Their attacks are quite obvious. They're not too annoying. The likes of that being the basic sort of skeletons. And then you've got some mid-tier annoying mobs, which in my opinion are the zombies that make the gas clouds. The traditional zombies are quite easy to kite but a little bit tanky. But they do drop some really good gems, so they're always worth killing to pick them up. And then sort of I'd put mages and archers skeleton versions definitely in this variant as well. I won't be talking about the mobs in the solo version, the goblin caves. That'll be a video of its own. And then in the real high tier of the mobs, you've got the skeleton champion, who is an absolute raid boss. 3-hit combos, turns on a 50p piece and just hits everyone for quite a lot of damage. And then you've also got the Wraith, which extremely fast, deals a lot of damage. Oh, and one for the mid-tier as well. You've got the flying mobs, the mosquitoes, and the skulls, just because they can be annoying to hit, depending on your classes, how easy you'll deal with them. So going from there, these drop loot as well. They can also drop gear. Depending on your class is the sort of gear you'll be looking out for. My main, Berserker, I was looking for two-handed weapons, armoured helmets, leather trousers, and then just heavy boots, leather gloves, leather chest. If you're a cleric or a warrior, this could be full heavy gear. If you're a sorcerer, it could be full cloth. You know, it really depends on the class you're playing. So that's what you get from the first gist. And then the first couple of times you probably won't make it out. Or if you're lucky, you might. A lot of people still die to mobs in this game. So, the joy of this game is you don't actually have to be the last one standing to get out. You just have to find blue portals. The blue portals are one use per party member, and it will teleport you out and you keep all your gear. If you die, you lose all your gear, but you get given back a starter set of beginning gear. Again, refer to my class overview guide, and that sort of explains the easier classes, because they start with things like healing pots, or they have the ability to heal, or they have other healing abilities for solo healing. So, gear is also ranked from grey all the way up to orange. The full ranks being grey, white, green, blue, purple, orange. If you've ever played Borderlands or games like that, Vermintide, Darktide, it follows a very similar suite. So, when you're playing the normal 3v3 map, you get low gear drop. You might luckily get one purple gear drop, but it is mainly greens. If you're lucky, blues, mainly whites and greys if I'm honest, but you can get greens and blues. We won't talk about the 100 gold cost map because I haven't explored on that yet, but I will put a video up on that as soon as I've had a go. So, furthermore to this, you learn quite quickly that if you get out with gold, you can sell all sort of stuff you've got. Out of all the treasures you've got, depending on what they are, you sell to the different merchants. And then from there, you'll suddenly get gold. But remember to always put this back in your stash, because when you sell, it will go into your inventory. If you take that into a game, you can't leave, else you'll lose it. So you've got to hope you survive that map with your gold. So, going from there, what you want to do is you now realise you can have a good look at all the different merchants. They're merchants for everything. And the more you look at it, the more common sense it makes. There's an alchemy merchant who sells the likes of blue shielding potions and red health potions that you can buy and take into the map. You can also find these around the map. But if you are a class that doesn't have healing abilities, or even say you probably want to add some as well, I tend to decide how many I'm going to take, because I mainly play barbarian, so if I'm talking about how I play, it will be from a barbarian standpoint, who has no healing in his kit unless he kills other players. Depending if I have a cleric or not is how much healing I will take. I'll always take healing. Obviously, as you've just seen, that green glowing thing there is a healing shrine, but they normally are defended by mobs. Normally a wraith. So going forward from here, a big thing to point out is that you want to take healing potions and some bandages. They don't cost much gold. What I did was, you can also follow this suit, is when I first started playing the game, for the first game until I got to level 10, I played with no healing pots. I didn't buy any gear, and I just went out there and I just played the game. I experimented, I learnt how the PvP worked with nothing to lose. The only thing I was losing was what stuff I'd already picked up on the map. And you can see there's another shrine there of power, they glow red. So, it is important that you get to the gist of the game. Go play all the different classes because they all carry their own inventory and their own stash. It does not carry over. And go feel sort of what class you enjoy, how you enjoy it, what more you can bring to it. So, the community. That was the next thing I wanted to talk about. The community was nothing but helpful. Every time you put a message in the chat or you ask people in your party questions, they're more than likely going to say, oh yeah, no worries. And the amount of level 20s that I had in my party when I was level 5, and they were more than happy to play because they were just looking for a fun time, not really try hard, and just wanted a bit of a laugh. A really fun game, a really fun community. Obviously, by the time this video comes out, the game will be running out tomorrow. So I aim to hope this gets uploaded tonight. And therefore, from that, you will get a little bit of time in the morning if you're lucky, depends on where you are. But I do believe, so I've heard, that the game will be opening up again in April. As you can see there, that blue crystal that was just on my video, that is a teleport out crystal. You'll see me use one in a little bit. So, the community, I couldn't fault it. Now, the partying system miffed me a little bit. So, you go to join into what is classed as a sort of tavern. And the taverns are split based on what server you want to join. Obviously, you pick the one closest to where you are based. For me, it was Frankfurt. And then from there, it puts you in a party of a bunch of other people. And like you would on an MMO, you type in looking for a group, your name, and, well, not your name, sorry, what class you're playing, because people want to get good classes in their party, and the fact you don't want 3 barbarians or 3 archers. You want a mix. So then people will invite you and you can join. You are more likely to get invited if you're a higher level, but you still do get invites at a lower level. I did too. But as soon as I reached level 20 and I was typing in there, I was getting absolutely overloaded by them. So, having that system, you have to be level 5 to join the tavern. So that means for the first levels from 1 through 5 on all of the classes, you can't join party with people unless you try and look through the amount of people that are already playing the game and then invite them through that, and it'll tell you if they're in a party. And sometimes people join, but a lot of people are AFK if they're not in the actual tavern to group up. So it's quite a backwards way of doing it. Personally, if you want my opinion, I just heavily went and did the 1v1 map. Most people in there are quite friendly. You will PvP, that's the aim of the game, but a lot of people will sort of teabag and hold a torch as a sign of friendliness. And that's fine, that's just way people saying they want to team up. Just don't trust rogues. They're the only people I've ever seen backstab people as rogue players. I don't know why, but I think it's part of the game. You can't be mad. They're doing what they need to get gear. So, currency in the game. There is currency in the form of... There's two different types of currency. There's gold and there's little love heart sweets. The gold actually isn't extremely hard to get. As I said before, there is quite a few games, sadly for me because there are quite a few dead recordings, of just purely most people dying to mobs and then my inventory's full and I go for a portal. And I don't see another person. Don't get me wrong, there's games where I've walked into a room, there's my party of 3, another party of 3 and another party of 3 and then there's suddenly 9 people slugging. But there is times when you can just get in and out, loot, no problem. Now if you especially play the sneakier classes, even easier for you to get in and out minding your own business. You know, you're not as loud as a warrior class like called fighters in this game, running around in heavy plate armour that everyone can hear from the other side of the map. So the currency, to begin with, you can spend it at merchants for gear. I don't normally recommend this. They sell absolutely god-awful gear, and just load into a game and go pick some up. If you want to have a bit of armour, you're not too confident in the starter armour, you're more than welcome to. The only thing I always suggest purchasing before going into a map, bandages, potions. And then further from this, you can then start going into the trading system when you're a bit higher level. Now the trading system costs, I think, 25 gold to become a trader, and then you have access to the trade channels. Now the trade channels themselves, you use, as said in any other game, to purchase gear that people have found. A lot of the gear that goes in the trade channels is gear that has come from the 100 gold dungeon. So sort of purple quality gear, gold gear, the occasional blues and greens depending on how good their stats are. There is even, God bless the developers for this, trade channels for certain classes. So you can go in trade channels specific to your class and you should only see gear for your class in that channel. Really beneficial because when you're playing the game there's 20,000 people in the trade channel, things are flying. In case you haven't noticed, I'll tell people just in case they're new, if you scroll up you can then scroll back down and it will pause. So you can look at things about them going at 50 miles an hour. Just don't scroll all the way down because that'll resume it. So, going further on this, you can then start purchasing gear that you agree with the roles of. For me, Berserker, it was gear that increases my strength, my max HP, how much physical damage I did. And then from there, that really is the beginning of gearing your character. Obviously, the better gear you have, the less chance you have of dying. But obviously, if you do die, you lose it. Mobs will hit significantly less. And other people in the dungeon, if they're using gear they found in the dungeon, you're going to be exponentially tougher. I can't explain the amount of times I've been running through a dungeon. I've been 2 hit by a warrior with a sword. And I've inspected him afterwards and he's got a gold sword. It does make a huge difference. But it is high risk, high reward. And the fact that if you do die, you're losing it. And they can be quite expensive. Don't get me wrong, there is runs in here where I've gained sort of 300 gold per run. Gold gear I was seeing was going for about 1,200, 1,500. So it's not too much of a grind to get good gear. I mean, especially compared to if you've ever played MMOs like Terra, Black Desert, even Lost Ark. Huge grinds in those games. This, not so much. And it's quite fun and enjoyable at the same time. And the last thing I wanted to look at is gear. Just building on the fact of that, just make sure you're aware of the gear that your class needs. The gear that's going to benefit you the most. Because just because you can wear heavy armour on Warrior doesn't mean all heavy armour is good. You want to look if you want heavy armour that maybe has a bit more higher magic resist. Heavy armour that may allow you to move a little bit faster but lose a little bit of physical resistance. Or maybe you want loads of physical resistance and no magic resist. There's a little bit of armour for everyone, and I can only imagine they're going to add more and more, and I'll make more and more videos explaining how I found it and how I got like this. Right, thank you very much guys, it's been Oddly Unorthodox with another little guide on Dark and Darker, and I'll see you next time.